Oh, hello everyone. It's actually quite daunting for me today. This is my first time speaking since the pandemic, so be gentle with me today, please. But welcome everyone. Today, what I really want to speak to you about is, the humanisation of SaaS and tech and the industry. A lot of times when we look at technology, we always look at like the IT crowd. We always think of they're in the basement at the bottom of the organisation, and they're not in with the rest of the organisation, the group.
It's really interesting.
And the fact remains that we are now in the digital age. So what that means is that businesses need to digitalise, because if they don't, they won't exist in the next 10 years. We watched Blockbusters on the high street when Blockbuster said no to Love Film. Love Film turned into Netflix and Blockbusters closed down. The digitalisation age is like the industrial age. If you don't get in it, there's going to be a problem. And a lot of times when I say to people, oh, I'm the founder of Women in Digital Business, instantly they think digital marketing. It's not. Digitalisation of a business is not just marketing and how you get your customers, but it's about how your whole business is structured in terms of digitalisation, the automation, the customer service. So tech is actually ingrained in every single area of the business now, be that operations, HR, finance, marketing. It's a part of every single key function within the organisation. So today, I really just kind of want to look at, okay, when we go from ideas and conceptualising an idea of an organisation right the way through to prototype and how we bring a SaaS or a software product to market, what does that actually look like? How do we make that profitable? Because technology is no longer this department that's at the bottom basement of a whole load of people just coding away. It's changed. So before we do go into that, a little bit about who I am. Who am I to tell you all of this? Why should anybody even listen to me? So I'm a Google certified digital marketing coach, and it's named, it's brands, but whether it's Google, whether it's BT, non-profit organisations, government agencies, I've been working with small businesses now for well over 15 years. And I got into it because of the pains and challenges that I went through. And I often used to think, it's funny, I'm being coached or trained by someone that hasn't actually run their own business. So that's what really got me into this arena. And a lot of things that I've done, I've actually just fallen into by accident. So on top of being a serial entrepreneur and failing my way to success, I've been through a lot. My first business was an online multicultural bookstore. I thought I was going to be the next Amazon. That went horribly wrong. Literally, I went bankrupt. Turned up to the courts and they told me that you had to have £500 to file. And I was like, but I don't have any money. The good thing is that probably went for my advantage that I didn't have to file in the end. But from there, I actually built a cleaning business, believe it or not. I didn't have any money. I was asking God to please show me my next sign. Instead, I met my now husband, got £600 and turned that into a 7-figure business. But it taught me the core elements of business. So outside of digital and tech, I started off in e-commerce, but that was a great experience to teach me about supply and demand, numbers, the figures, it really did. From there, I felt like, I don't want to be in the cleaning business, I want to get back into e-commerce. I'd also had children, so my time was now cut in half, so that was really challenging. So I started coaching, I started doing leadership stuff, but I wasn't happy because I wanted to be back in the entrepreneur field. So that's when I decided, right, I'm going to go to China, I'm going to develop my own range of candles, completely annoyed my husband, he wanted a man cave. I'd now taken every single space in the house, our garage, the outbuilding, the loft, and I'd had my own whole range of candles. So now I thought, right, I'm going to be an Amazon seller, I'm going to build my own store on Shopify, and that's it, that's how I'm going to reach my 7 figures. I'm getting back into entrepreneurialism. And that was actually the start of my journey of really understanding how difficult it was to sell online, because I kept wanting to follow these robotic steps and frameworks that I kept picking up from everywhere. I educated myself, I'd gone back to study, everything digital, everything technology, and I still wasn't actually making this business work. It wasn't until I actually understood who my end user is and I really humanized and understood that everything that you do in e-commerce, technology, digital, it has to be with the customer in mind. It has to be, else it's just not going to work and it's not going to translate. So being featured in loads of different places, but it wasn't always like that. It's been a struggle over the years, if you want me to be honest with you, and you know, going to trade shows in South Africa, selling the online books, and people asking me, oh, how's business going? Yeah, it's brilliant. At this time, I'm not making any money. I'm turning up to these events with hardly £1 in my pocket because it's not actually making profit. So I spent a long time doing that, and it wasn't until about 6 years ago, now that I've got kids, I'm doing the whole mompreneur thing that you can see on the screen. I'm coaching for Google, I'm working for non-agencies, that I really started to understand that I need a growth plan. I need a strategy. And it wasn't until that I had that framework and that strategy that, if you want me to be honest with you, things really started to turn around. So, you know, one of the things that I really want to go into today is understanding that you have to have frameworks. You have to have that strategic plan. That's what helped me. But you have to humanize it. You have to understand, how do I make my sight, my smell, my taste, my hearing, my touch, how do I take the 5 senses and how do I use that in technology? The same way that I'm standing here with you guys today and I can look around the room, I can connect with you. How do you do that? Through a smartphone, a laptop, a tablet. And that's one of the biggest secrets if you're really going to monetize, whether you're running your own business, a side hustle, you're in an organization, it doesn't matter. How are you going to humanize the whole process? You're going to have to figure out the laws of intimacy that we use as humans to connect, and how do you do that through technology? And for me, I did that by really coming up with a strategic growth plan. So some of you can see the decks, because I can't see them. You can see them up there, but you get the gist. So Women in Digital Business, I started a community. I wanted to help women like me. I went through so much failing my way to success that I just felt like I need to be able to tell people all the things that I didn't know, because when you know, you know. When you don't know, oh boy, do you make a lot of mistakes trying to figure that out. So for me, it really was important for me to try and be able to build a community and to try and build a membership where people could come along and get the information that they needed. When I was training on behalf of all the big organisations, there'd be times I'd look up on the screen and I used to think, that's not really necessarily true. Because it didn't scratch the surface enough, it didn't go deep enough, it wasn't strategic enough, the information that's given. There will be a skills gap 10 years from now in the digital world, and it will be because we don't understand enough about the technology and the psychology and how we fuse those two together to really get the results that are needed. The world is changing. The world has changed since the pandemic. So all businesses are going to need to adapt through innovation, but it has to be done in a strategical way, but at the same time really understanding humanization. So Women in Digital Business is a community that really exists to work with women, underrepresented women, disadvantaged women, to really be able to get ahead. And we talk about 7 figures so much. We talk about 6 figures. Big organizations talk about, large sums of money. How do we, within our marketing departments, within our businesses, within our tech departments, how do we actually really come up with products and services that are going to get to that 6-7 figure? And it's simple. It really is through humanization. That's what needs to happen to tech. So today, I really want to look at, how we're going to humanize, SaaS, specifically SaaS and technology. So by the end of this session, I want you to be able to describe the purpose of design thinking methodology. This is a framework that many, many big organizations use, okay? I want you to be able to list all the strategies of design methodology and explain how to use each stage, okay? And I also want you to be able to identify the industry techniques that are used within design technology and just use the different stages to be able to build a plan. So mindset, have an open mindset throughout this, keep in mind how you could utilize this. Can I ask, by the way, how many of you here are working within a business in tech? Okay, quite a few of you. How many of you have got a sideline hustle as well? Brilliant. And how many of you have got your own business? Fantastic, brilliant. So it's a nice mix. So what you're going to learn is something you can use in your own business, your side hustle, within your career, and perfect doesn't exist. If there's any one example of that, it's me. I define all the odds of where I am in life by far. I really thought I was going to be Alexis Carrington in red suits and big shoulder pads. And I was going to rule the world. Somehow I managed to become a tech entrepreneur and ended up with 3 children, a husband and the white picket fence. It really wasn't what I was trying to do. So yeah, perfect just doesn't exist. It really doesn't. You just got to keep trying. So design methodology, like I said, it's used by major organizations. It's used by Apple, Google, Samsung, the Airbnbs of the world, Uber. It's a thinking and a methodology that we all use, and it's a way to really put the humanization into methodology. So what we're really going to look at is how do we bring something from ideation to prototype, and what does that look like when you bring it to the marketplace, and we're going to look at the customer value journey. So what are the different elements of design thinking methodology for those that use it? Empathize, having empathy, define, ideate, creating a prototype, and then going to the market and testing it. We're going to let the train pass. I'm not trying to compete to it. I know I've got a loud voice, but I'm not going to try and talk over it. And we're going to test it. And one other thing that you have to remember about this digital age is, what have we got? You no longer have to make assumptions about anything. This is not, there's 3 channels on TV anymore. Let me put an ad out when Coronation Street's on, because that's how I'm going to reach families. Audiences have become very segmented, and there are so many ways to reach your audiences in your community. So when it comes to testing, you haven't got to do any guesswork, because the market intelligence available to you through technology is huge, and it's actually simple to use. So what I've done is I've created a mission today. So our mission today with design methodology thinking is, how do we make women in SaaS and tech businesses profitable? And something I want you to remember, I can see there's a few men in the audience, and I would like us to remember it's not just women-owned businesses in tech and SaaS. Many tech and SaaS businesses, many technology business, their end users are women. And one of the things that does get my back up a little bit is the amount of representation within an organisation, within marketing and with technology, of women when we are the very end consumer. Most consumers are women in the marketplace. So would it not make sense for your workforce to reflect who's actually using your product or service? So I've decided today that our mission is going to be, how do we make women in SaaS and tech businesses profitable? So first step is empathy. So empathy, you really want to remain open-minded. Your experiences might not be the same as other people's experiences. So, when it comes to empathy, empathy is a strength that some of us have. It's really high up on our Strength Finder. Any of you that haven't done Strength Finders, you should, by the way. It's really good for this exercise. If you go onto Google and you type in Strength Finders, I love doing them. And I love when they tell me I'm like Oprah Winfrey, like, builds my ego up for the day. But they are really, really good if you type in Strength Finder. Because what you'll find is the different stages in design methodology will attract different personalities within your team, because really this is a great thing for you to do as a team. So empathy is really about understanding where other people are coming from. And sometimes if we feel we are the end user, we can make huge assumptions that the end user is just like us. So sometimes just be a little bit careful with empathy with that. But at this stage with design methodology, one thing I will say as I'm smiling, as women that challenges us with this methodology, we're solution finders. So from the beginning, the first stage of empathy, we're already thinking, what is the solution? Try not to do it. So we're not looking at solution yet, you're just looking at empathy. We've come up with a mission. What empathy would you have to that? What empathy have you got? Why, women in SaaS and technology, how can they become more profitable? So the industry uses very many techniques to do this and approaches. So these approaches are used by Airbnb, Ubers, Apples, big organizations of the world. So you've got market research, and gone are the days where you got Mintel reports and you had to travel to the library. I don't know, am I showing my age? You used to have to go to Westminster or King's Cross Library to have to look in this big manual that would tell you about the market sector, and then you'd think, oh my God, if I just got 0.1% of the market sector to buy from me, I'll be a millionaire. Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that, because you have to be able to connect. This is where the humanization keeps coming up time and time again. So research, there's so much market research intelligence. Now you can speak to your audiences, whether it's focus groups, whether it's doing surveys, whether it's, there are apps now, there are softwares, and I can't believe it's gone out of my head, but there's a major software, somebody might be able to jog my memory, that will even tell you about different communities on social media, what people have got to say. You've got things like Reddit. You've got so much tools to help you with market research, SEM Rush. The list is just endless and endless and endless. You shouldn't have to be making assumptions. Persona journeys. The customer is at the center of everything. So understanding the customer journey and understanding your customer profile is absolutely key. You should be able to name your audience with a name, know what they eat in the morning, what time they get to work, you know, how many children they have, what do they think of their children, who are their heroes, what do they hate in life, what are their pains, what are their challenges. You should be able to know your audience like literally they are your best friend. And empathy mapping, just mapping out, you know, what empathy that you would have. So these are all techniques as well that are used in the biggest to the smallest organizations. Okay, but still, you're not thinking solutions. Because the minute you start thinking solutions with design methodology, you are making assumptions. And technology and market intelligence is there to help you through that. So step 2, you want to define. What do I mean by define? You want to come up with a problem statement to the mission. So the mission is how to make women in SaaS and technology businesses more profitable. So what's the problem statement? It needs to be something that's really broad. You're not doing solutions yet. So the problem statement that I've come up with is women in the UK need to be supported more in the tech industry to better their opportunities along with their talent to be recognised and rewarded. And by rewarded, I do mean monetary. I was just being politically correct. But that's the problem statement. That's saying what one of the problems are. So when you're defining the design methodology, you want to think about your audience, which you would have done in the previous stage with the empathy mapping, the persona, the market research. And now you really want to think to yourself, okay, what is the problem here? What are the challenges? What are the pain points? And how many of us have had challenges, whether it's pay gaps, whether it's not being heard, whether it's not being respected because you don't come from the old IT crowd. Whether, you know, I was on stage before and you were talking about age, you know, everybody always open to be a learner. There's just so many different things. So now you really want to come up with a problem statement. And this really does work even if this was for your career as well. So the industry will use 2 things. They will use the 6 thinking hats. 6 thinking hats is when you are really looking at things from every single angle. You're taking everything into consideration from all different viewpoints, all different eyes, and you're really mapping it out. And the why and how laddering, I always like to look at it. It's a bit like committing a crime. There's a motive. You know, what's the why? What's the motive? You know, people don't just randomly do things. Even when we buy as a consumer, even in technology, people buy because people like buying people and they like to have a why. They like to buy into a story. Tech has still got a soft skills side to it that for whatever reason has been detached from the industry. So it's just looked upon like this robotic coding. It's an amalgamation of things. When you look at the businesses that have come from Silicon Valley, fintech, those are the things that have gotten them ahead. When you look at like hackathons and hackbooks and you read like how Microsoft, Skype, Yahoo would have gotten out of situations that nearly sent them bankrupt, it's usually something that was soft-skilled or psychological where they thought, the customer wants this, the customer needs this or views it, let's change how we present it. And that's what's brought it to profitability. So 6 thinking hats and the why and how laddering are often used to define. So the next step, step 3, we are going to ideate. How do we ideate? This is where diversity is essential. So my thing is this, if we're building out an app and we're building out a software and you've got a whole load of guys, people in the tech department that's been given a brief, how can we build a program or how can we build a software, how can we build a service without taking into account the diversity of people that might be using it? Because you're just going to end up having about 50 prototypes, to tell you the God's honest truth. It's going to be more expensive to get to the marketplace, which is why many go in the bin, and then you'll have someone else that will come out with it and do it even better. So diversity is thinking about different voices that you can bring to the process of developing your idea. So whether that's thought, race, ability, sexuality, experience, background, location, the list goes on and on and on. So if we go back and we look at, okay, what was our mission today? Our mission today was to make software and SaaS businesses more profitable, women SaaS and technology businesses more so. So when we look at that list, what are the different things that we can do that's really going to look at it from a diverse viewpoint? Coming here today, March 8, this stage is built for women in STEM. So this would be going a long way to be able to say, okay, this is at this stage when we're defining, we're ideating, it's shows like this that you can go to get ideas on the mission that we're on and thinking about the problem statement of opening up more opportunities for us and making us more profitable. Recruitment companies. On stage today, there was a Q&A about recruitment companies and STEM and getting more women into them. So it's about diversity and innovation. And again, it's so important. And the tech industry knows this, by the way. I don't think I'm up here on stage telling anybody or saying anything we don't know. Who here has not noticed in the last 2 to 3 years that the visibility of women in tech has just gone through the hemispheres? Nobody was mentioning us before, because all of a sudden we're rocking it now. You know, we can still have beauty regimes, you know, we can still be a woman, but we're in technology. People are now talking about it. I'm a woman of colour. This is the first time I've seen in the last few years so much talk and press coverage and social media coverage about black women in technology. Why? Because we are the end users, and organisations are starting to realise, actually, if we've got who our end user is in the tech department, we're going to do better. And not only that, we rock at tech. We are natural born nurturers. So the fact that we're a natural born nurturer, the fact that we can understand the soft skill and the psychology, but we can still code and we can still program, or we can still come up with objectives and understand like what it is that the stakeholders want in a business, that is our strength without a shadow of a doubt. It's a huge strength. So industry techniques and approaches for ideation. There's a few that a lot of the big boys use. And my favourite's Crazy 8, because I'm a bit crazy. But Crazy 8's when it's just boom, 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 boom. Off the top of your head, what do you think? It's like when someone says, I say right, what do you say? Okay, that was a bit obvious, it's left. But you get the point. Crazy 8 is when you're shooting them out, and whatever comes to mind, you're going to come up with. Brainstorming, absolutely love brainstorming, and there's so many digital brainstorming tools that are absolutely amazing. Worst possible idea, you know, I always say to young people if I'm doing talks, well, if you know what you don't want to do, at least you're cutting the process of elimination down and making it shorter. It's the same thing with what are the worst ideas we can come up with. A lot of times they're encouraged some of the best ideas. Some of the best ideas come out of the worst ideas. My best businesses have come out of my worst failures. Without a shadow of a doubt. And a scamper approach of when you're, you know, substituting, you're multiplying, you're really moving things around. It's a very fluid movement of really being able to get the best out of what is the best technique here. Is it to substitute something, add, take away, multiply it, and being really quite strategic on how you're going to move things around. So step 4 is now when you've gathered all of that, you can create your own prototype. Sorry, I'm just going to check the time because I talk a lot. I don't want to go way too over. So prototype is now when you're going to build your prototype out. And nowadays, for those of you that said you've got side hustles, even if you're working in an organisation, there are so many tools that you can use, especially with SaaS and software. Marvel is one of my absolute favourites. So Marvel, you can actually build your own app. And you can actually put a prototype together ready to take to development. So there's loads of different approaches that you can use, whether it's a website, whether it's Proto.io, there's so many different approaches that you can use to build out your prototype. So your prototype is just a skeleton of what it is that you want to do. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to test it. You know, you want to take it to market. You want to create a focus group. You know, you want to maybe give it out to communities of your target audience and get their feedback and see what they think. And there's so many different ways you can do this. SurveyMonkey, Google Forms, Wufoo. Again, the technology is just crazy. Could you imagine when I first started my first e-commerce business, I would have to pay someone to code my site in terms of design, in terms of font, everything was about coding. Then all of a sudden, actually, even the designer, you know, everything was Adobe. Now I've got Canva. I don't need all of this. Yeah, software and technology has changed the world so much that for all of you that got your own businesses and side hustles, it's given you the power to do what the big boys do actually by using the software that we've got. So lastly, I just want to close it with, I don't know if you could see through design methodology, the customer is at the core of everything. If you can understand who your customer is, who your target audience is, that way you're going to create content and you're going to create a product that can actually connect with them. So in everything you do, when you are bringing it to market, or whether you are thinking about an idea, always think about that customer journey. How will you make your audience aware of you? And to make your audience aware of you, you are going to have to understand who your audience is. You should know your audience better than they know themselves, and also know the segments of your audience. You know, if your audience was women in tech, is that black women in tech? Is that women that have got children in tech? Is that single parents? Does that make any sense? Is it high-level developers or coders? There's going to be different segments. And you have to understand who those segments are so you can produce content and a product that's actually going to connect with that person. So how are you going to make them aware of you? How are you going to engage with them? You know, in this day and age, it's about creating a community. It's about creating tribes. How are you going to do that? The minute you make who's going to use your SaaS or tech product aware of you, they're making their mind up whether they want to use you or not. So in the engagement stage, your job is to actually pull out content to the objection of sale. It doesn't matter that this is technology, it's still business. Okay? How are you going to get them to subscribe to you? How are you going to build that funnel so you're going to keep having leads coming in? You know, how are you going to get their email address, their cell number? How are you maybe going to run ads and set pixels up where I can keep targeting you and retargeting you? How are you going to convert that into a sale? From that sale, how do you get people excited about your community and then keep upselling them? Think about how people like Canva, Slack do all of this. They do this by offering a freemium version. And after that freemium version, when you're excited and you can see that it works, you'll upgrade to the different packages. You know, how are you going to get your customers to advocate you? Amazon does this brilliantly with its review system. It's, you know, someone that's bought this has bought this next thing. You know, how are you then going to get people to promote and maybe take a commission? Look at the amount of softwares, ActiveCampaign, Aweber, Infusionsoft, ClickFunnels. All these softwares, people make huge sums of money from affiliate marketing. That is what the promote stage is, which at this stage now is the exit strategy. So in everything you do, the customer value journey should be at the center of it. So if anybody wants to do a challenge of a five-day challenge of putting together a customer value journey for the organization you work in, your side hustle, your business, please, please, please do make sure that you follow me on Instagram and take part in the 5-day challenge.